Imagine this. You are the sole savior of an empire. You have forced enemy kings to kneel before you, and you alone have brought back the stolen honor of Rome. Your name echoes like a god's across the walls of Constantinople, and your soldiers are desperate to die for you. But what is the reward for such loyalty? Dark dungeons, fabricated lies, and finally, to hold out a hand as a blinded beggar in the dusty streets of the very city you saved with your own hands. This is the story of the greatest general in history, Flavius Belisarius, a military genius who erased armies 30 times his size, using nothing but his intellect. A hero who prepared his own death warrant through his unshakable loyalty to his emperor. Was he truly the last Roman, or just a tragic victim serving the wrong master? Now, we return to that bloody past, where Rome fought to rise from its ashes. The early 6th century. The world was changing. Rome, which once made the world tremble, was no longer a city. It was merely a mournful memory. The Western Empire had collapsed, and the eternal city had been crushed and looted under the boots of barbarian kings. In the east, beneath the golden domes of Constantinople, a young emperor named Justinian was dreaming an impossible dream: to reunite Rome. But Justinian was no soldier. He was a bureaucrat weaving plans in the corridors of the palace. He needed an iron will to turn his dreams into reality. Flavius Belisarius emerged from the harsh lands of Thrace as a simple guardsman. In his eyes sparkled not just discipline, but the lost military brilliance of the ancient world. His rise was no accident. He was the only man willing to shoulder the entire weight of a crumbling civilization. Belisarius's first great test was not in the vast deserts, but in an explosion of rage in the heart of the capital. In 532 AD, during the Nika Riots, Constantinople was engulfed in flames. The people were marching on the palace shouting, "Nika! Victory!" Emperor Justinian was paralyzed by fear, preparing his ships to flee. But the resolve of Empress Theodora and the sword of Belisarius changed the course of history that night. With only a few thousand loyal and heavily armored soldiers, Belisarius sealed the massive gates of the Hippodrome. That day, 30,000 rioters were put to the sword in that arena. The streets turned into a river of blood. The city fell silent. But the emperor's throne was saved. Justinian was now indebted to this young general, and that debt would open the gates of the world to Belisarius, but also the path to hell. The emperor gave Belisarius his first great and seemingly suicidal mission: take Africa back from the Vandals. The army under Belisarius's command was only 15,000 men. The Vandal kingdom they faced was far superior in numbers and fighting on its own soil. But Belisarius was more than a soldier. He was a master of psychological warfare. He ordered his soldiers not to harm a single civilian, winning the trust of the local people. At the Battle of Ad Decimum, he trapped the enemy in a strategy so flawless that the massive Vandal army was left in shock. In just a few months, an entire kingdom was erased from history, and Carthage opened its gates. For the first time in centuries, Rome shouted to the world from the other side of the Mediterranean, "We are back." And then came the ultimate target, Italy. When Belisarius entered the city of Rome, the people welcomed him with tears of joy. But the celebrations were short-lived. A massive Ostrogoth army of 150,000 warriors descended from the north, swearing vengeance. Belisarius had only 5,000 exhausted soldiers. The odds were exactly 30 to 1. Logic said, abandon the city. But Belisarius said, here we will die, or here we will write history. For 1 year and 9 days, the ancient walls of Rome endured hell. As hunger gnawed at the city, Belisarius did not sleep for a single second. By day, he showed his archers where to aim. By night, he personally burned enemy siege towers with torches. When his silver armor was covered in the blood of his enemies, the Gothic warriors began to believe he was not a mortal, but one of the old gods of Rome. When the siege was lifted and the massive Gothic army retreated in ruins, Belisarius had achieved the impossible once again. Success brings with it the world's most deadly poison, jealousy. In the palace of Constantinople, Emperor Justinian began to hate that his general's name was mentioned more than his own. Even the enemy Goths were so in awe of Belisarius's genius that they sent him a secret envoy. "Your emperor is a coward. Be our emperor. Wear the crown of the West, and we shall bow before you." Belisarius could have accepted at that moment. He could have been the most powerful man in the world, founding his own empire. But he was a man of unshakable honor. He pretended to accept the offer to enter the city and handed the keys directly to Justinian's envoys. This honesty was the beginning of his end, because to a cowardly emperor, a man this loyal and this powerful was the ultimate threat. Justinian wanted to destroy him, but when the Persians set the border ablaze, he was forced to rely on him once again. This time, the destination was the East, the ancient enemy, the Sassanid Empire. Belisarius performed miracles even in this hell, despite being sent with inadequate resources and unreliable allies. At the Battle of Dara, he stood against the Persians' massive elephant corps and the elite cavalry known as the Immortals. With limited means, he managed to hold a gargantuan empire at the border. But every time news of victory reached Constantinople, the enemies in the palace continued to whisper in the emperor's ear, "Belisarius is now more than a commander. He is now a legend, and legends are always dangerous for thrones." In 562 AD, the empire he had dedicated his life to brought him to court on a false charge of conspiracy. He was treated like a traitor. His wealth was seized and his titles were stripped away. The legends say that Justinian ordered his eyes to be blinded with red-hot needles. The hands that once erased empires from the map were now begging for a piece of bread in the streets of Constantinople. He died in 565 AD, almost at the same time as his master Justinian. Belisarius left behind no golden thrones but a name beyond reproach. He saved an empire, but that empire threw him away like trash. His sword may have rusted, but the honor of the last Roman is forever etched into the soul of history.